and welcome. My name is Sharon.
I'm Christy.
And we are two girls in a pod, life's journey and everything in between. Thank you so much for joining us. This is the first episode of our new venture, and we hope that everybody enjoys it. It'll be one that has a Facebook page that goes with it to kind of help people track and follow. On that Facebook, we will put what's coming up, and we encourage people to really get on there and give us their comments and their feedback. We would really love it. But before we get into all that, let's give you a little bit of background information about us. I'm actually an LPC, which is a licensed professional counselor with the state of Colorado. I've been a therapist and doing therapy for 20 years. It's something that I really enjoy. I always say I love what I do. This is just kind of an extension of that for me. It's a way that I can share some of the information and knowledge that I've learned over the years. And I've been so blessed to be able to learn a lot from the people that I see. And, I tell them they teach me just as much as I teach them. So this is kind of a way of putting all that information out to everybody else. Christy and I have been in a partnership for 20 years and still going strong. So we said, hey, this is something I think we can do together. And so here we are. So Christy, a little bit about you.
So I have been working with Sharon. I've been partnering with her, as she said, for 21 years. And it's been great. And we want to share some of the things that we have learned along the way. And of course, we're going to be covering many different topics. And we would love to get your feedback on that on our Facebook page.
When we talk about a partnership, kind of one of the cool things is there are so many things that Christy and I are different on, and some stuff that we're very similar on. I grew up in a very small community, very much more of a country living type of environment. So I grew up in the San Luis Valley, whereas Christy, on the other hand,
I grew up in a city, so I am definitely a city girl. And so, but we meet in the middle.
And I think that's what's important. And that's some of the stuff we're going to talk about is how do we have even successful relationships? What makes it successful? How do we contribute? How do we accept the contribution of somebody else in that relationship without feeling like it's trying to take away from us or do something different? I love that, we've introduced some different things to each other on this journey. Some stuff that we like and some stuff, we just say, that's not for me and that's okay. We don't push it with each other.
Yes.
Oh, a woman, a few words. I love that. Yes. And we're actually doing this recording because we said, when do we have these moments where we just really explore a lot of different things? Our moment is during morning coffee and in our hot tub. We decided recording in our hot tub was not the thing to do. So therefore we do it as we are having our morning coffee. But I want to talk a little bit, and I should say we want to talk a little bit about why this project is important to us. In the years I've done this job, we have people who come in weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever that is, however we meet the needs of the population that we serve. And we can't be there all the time, but I think sometimes it might be important or it's beneficial to have that thing where you can go to a podcast, and any podcast that's going to work for you, that helps you to get through those difficult times or do all that. That's kind of what this represents. And because, as I said, we love what we do, and I tell each of my clients, I really am honored to be on this journey with them and that they welcome me into it. But, I'm just along for the ride. I'm the support. At the end of the day, every decision they make is theirs. I'll support it. It's not, like I said, it's such an honor to be on that journey. And the thing that we have found in this is that in the business, I do the therapy. Christy does all the hard work. I tell her she does all the behind the scenes stuff of scheduling and insurances and juggling all that stuff that as therapists, we like to do therapy. So I really appreciate that. But she's the first person that our clients have contact with. And she does that so beautifully. And I'm going to let her talk a little bit about why she feels that relationship, because we've talked about this, why she feels that first encounter is so important.
Well, it's important to make people feel welcome and to know that they've come to a place that feels safe, that they can open up. People deal with so many different things in life, and meeting that person at the front and having that welcoming encounter to start, I think really opens the door. And so even like with this podcast, all of the different topics that we want to cover, I want everyone to feel like that they can pose those questions and feel comfortable and feel like that they're going to get some good feedback that can help throughout your daily life.
And I think that, when we talk about those first encounters, one of the things I tell people is that when we meet people, whether it's an encounter of 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 weeks, 5 years, 50 years, it doesn't matter. Every time we encounter somebody, everybody forms an opinion very quickly. It's neither a positive or a negative. It just simply is. And in that encounter, people develop that opinion. And then they may share that opinion, or we may feel it, in that encounter. And then from there, we go to that place of sometimes taking that opinion on as our own. And if we have those positive encounters in the first place, and it has that positive feel, then you walk away with that positivity. You walk away with feeling like you matter. And I hope that everybody who we encounter, whether it's in our profession or wherever we're at, that they feel like they matter, and that we don't just say the verbiage. We really try to live that life where we're there for people, that we do what we can in those moments. And so all of those things tie into the importance and relevance of this podcast. And, Christy had mentioned that we're going to have a lot of different topics. So we're just going to life's journey and everything in between. That's really what this is about. There's so much that we encounter throughout our lifetime. And how do we get to navigate that in a way that is positive for us and gets us to that next place that we truly want to be? That's going to be covered in this podcast, because we're going to talk about success. I tell my clients, I don't use the word failure because I don't view things as failure. I view everything as practice in life. When you're teaching your child to tie their shoes and they can't do it the first time, they didn't fail. They're practicing. So everything in life is about how do we practice. Failure has such a negative thing, and I think it takes us to a very different place. So we're going to talk about success and practice. We're going to talk about death and dying, topics that people don't really like to talk about or are afraid to talk about. We're going to have those topics on here.
Relationships. We'll be talking about that, not just relationships with your life partner, but, all kinds of relationships. And how do we navigate those, and how they make us feel, and, how we make other people feel, because we are connected.
That's a really good one. We're going to talk about that human connectedness that we have. Whether we have a conscious awareness to it or not, it is there. And what do we do to strengthen the connection? What do we do to nurture those connections? Those things are super important and relevant to us. We're going to look at, and when we talked about relationships, and we're going to talk about some view as some unconventional relationships, we're going to include the LGBTQ plus community in this, polyamorous relationships, all, just different kinds of things that we want this to be a very all-inclusive. We want everybody to feel welcome. We're going to talk about cultures and how do cultures play in our life, and how do we keep the culture and still be a part of the bigger culture. And, people struggle with that. People struggle with their spirituality. And, when I'm talking spirituality, where it's not about religions or things like that, because we truly believe that everybody's way of believing is sacred and important to them. And it's not ever about being offensive to other people. This is simply what spirituality means to us, what that journey has meant, because we're all on that journey, and it's a continuous journey. So inviting people to even share their ideas around that. We're going to talk about the importance of the communication on different levels. And once again, not, as Christy said, when we talk even about relationships, those parenting relationships. How do we communicate with our children? I tell parents when I work with them, changing a child's behavior, we can do that. But then what about the next behavior? Instead, I say, how do we develop a relationship? Those really strong relationships. So then it's not about behaviors. It's about building something that's positive, something that's important. We're also going to talk about anxiety and fear.
Yes, I have fear of being up in front of people. And so that'll be an episode that I will be probably going to sing a little song. I'm not sure yet, but I do like to sing. I enjoy it. It's just something that I'm always afraid to get up in front of people. So we'll be talking about that.
Anxiety and fear are something that is so prevalent, and we all have something. I don't care who we are. There is something, whether we acknowledge it or want to talk about it or anything like that. There is something that we all have anxiety or fear around. And how do we address that? How do we look at it and use that in a different way? One of our things that we've talked about, Christy and I, is we've said we don't want to be afraid anymore. We want to go out. We want to do things. We want to explore. And once again, that's been a little bit difficult. We're also going to talk about that difficulty of the last year with COVID and how it's impacted people. I'm going to talk about it from a therapist point of view, but we're also going to talk about it from a personal point of view of how has that impacted us? How has it made us stronger in some ways? For a lot of people not realizing that, I know this doesn't sound funny, but COVID is a blessing in that it got people to be around each other more, family systems and stuff. And then what did you do with that? And we're going to talk a lot about health, our physical health. And, even during COVID, did you use it to, was it something that overwhelmed your system? So there were two ways people went. They either got busy working out and being healthy, or they were there had more of that thing of, I'm just here. This is what I'm going to do, So, and once again, neither is wrong or right. It's just how each person has decided to deal and cope with this really different year that we've had and how that works. Talked a little bit there about health. We're going to do segments on health and wellness. We're going to talk about what we eat. We talk about food as being fuel for our bodies. What kind of fuel do I want in my body in order to help it function?
Be more successful, because if you're putting the right things in your body, how much better you feel.
And for Christy, we've been on a journey together of health, but Christy, I'm going to let her chat a little bit quickly about her journey into this just briefly, because we'll talk more about it in another episode.
So it's been at least 3 years that I've been on going through the process of just getting healthier and doing what I need to do to make myself stronger. And through doing that, how it has empowered me, I feel, and given me more confidence. And I think that that's something that we really need to talk about with people, because I don't know if people really understand how much their physical impacts the emotional, and how successful you can be through that.
And I think that's what it is. And we're going to talk about how sometimes it can be beneficial for doing that journey together. I don't do as much as Christy. I'll be upfront and honest about that. Mine sometimes does with scheduling. She's not a morning person, but in order to be on this journey of being healthier, she does get up at 5:45 in the morning. I get up at 6, maybe 6:10. Kind of depends on the day. Working to motivate each other and to be inspired by each other, I think, is really important, and why it makes these journeys a little easier to do. And I think there's really some more success to it also when you're able to do it with somebody else. And those are conversations that you can have.
You have to have that encouragement, and it really does help.
Yeah. And so we'll be talking about that. We're going to be talking about food. So we will have somebody who is vegan, who's going to talk about what being vegan for her means and how that has helped her to be healthy. We're going to have somebody come on and talk about the gastric sleeve and that journey, because each journey is as relevant and is important. One is not better than the other or anything like that. Everybody's journey is theirs. And when you do what you do, and people will sometimes say, well, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do the gastric sleeve or that because that's just the easy way out, or they use some mentality or stuff. It is a very hard journey to maintain that and stuff and change the mentality. So we'll have somebody who's going to talk to us about that and about what that journey's like for them. And maybe it's something that can help other people out.
Because no matter how you do that, no matter how you lose the weight, or whatever it is you're trying to achieve, trying to bulk up, or trying to build muscle, whatever it is that you're trying to do, you need that encouragement and you need that support throughout that process. And it doesn't matter the way that you do it, you still need that person there cheering you on does really help.
Well, and I think that's true. When I talk even about therapy, that's sometimes I am the cheerleader. Sometimes I am just that person who provides that support to help people know they're not on this journey alone. And we're going to talk about that.
It's about creating new habits no matter how you lose the weight or how you bulk up. It's all about creating new habits for yourself.
And in those new habits, and the reason this is Life's Journey, everything in between, is because it's about the relationship between all of those aspects of who we are. Our physical health, our mental health, our spiritual health, our financial health, our relationship health, our occupational health. There are all of these things that make up this whole entire pie of who we are. And how do we do that? And Christy's right. It's about a lifestyle change, creating those habits that are going to really enhance your life and take you just that step further and that next step further in whatever that journey is that you're on. And that's why we're always going to encourage that feedback. We'll put that next episode, whatever it's going to be, out there so that people can go to the Facebook page and write comments down. If you have questions, we'll answer as much. Once again, I'm not doing this as a therapist. This is more like coaching and just, once again, sharing that experience and being able to have information out there for people. And so we're going to talk about different books we've read. We're going to talk a lot about the 4 agreements. How important and relevant is that? We're going to talk a little bit about The Secret, the importance of gratitude. We're going to have a few episodes on gratitude. Why does it work? How does it help us? And it's not about just having gratitude for ourselves, but how do we have gratitude for other people? That becomes that contribution as well. How do we pay things forward? And it's not like this Pollyanna stuff, because this is about real life stuff and the stuff that happens. We want to make it feel real and relevant to people. So there's so much that goes into this.
We'll even be doing an episode just even about the everyday things that we go through and just the regular routine and how it helps us to have those routines and that structure.
Yes, that episode will be our mundane Monday, because we all have them. And it's like, we have them. What do we do with them? We get into that monotony too, but how can we still keep our routine and at the same time have an appreciation for it so that it doesn't become monotonous?
You feel alive and not mechanical.
Exactly. We're going to talk about, that's part of that overall thing. We're going to talk about the importance of quieting the mind and taking that time to be mindful of things and be present. We're going to talk, when we talk about relationships, huge stuff on communication. How do we communicate? How do we truly communicate what we feel and then help the other person we're communicating with really hear our message? Because nobody wants to feel invisible. People want to feel relevant. And the way we feel relevant often is through our communication. It's through being heard. So that's going to be really important. We're going to have some kind of kooky ones. I'm from the San Luis Valley. Anybody from the Valley listening, they're going to go, oh yeah, because they're going to know what that means. We have a lot of kind of different stuff that happens there. I've had clients come to me and say, I see things, but they're not delusions or hallucinations. Can we talk about that? I don't care. I don't discount people's what they see, what they experience, because oftentimes people feel like they can't talk about that. And then so they suppress it, but then they feel like there's something wrong with them, all those kind of things. No, we're going to talk about all that. So we're going to have episodes that are going to be just kind of, stuff out there.
The unusual, the unexplained, a little bit of the paranormal. So
yeah. And how does that play into this? When we talked about different people's belief system, how do we get to those places? How do we get to be, whether we follow the Christian faith, the Muslim, Hindu, Wiccan, agnostic, and the list goes on and on and on, atheist. How do we get to those places? And it doesn't matter how you get there. What matters is that you find a place that you feel like you are not alone, where you feel like there is something greater than you, whatever that may be. And obviously, we're going to talk about some of those more serious things. Once again, death and dying, depression. How do we deal with traumas, things like that? One of the things I tell my clients is when they come in is I always say, if you look at my wall, there's nothing on it. I said, that wall is the mural of your life. Everything in our life has to be represented because it's happened. Thing is that we decide where everything goes on the mural of our life. Sometimes trauma takes the center stage. Sometimes it's our joy and happiness. Sometimes it's our success. All of those things. So we're going to talk about the mural of our life. How do we represent things on that mural that are going to be really beneficial for us? How are we going to make that? How do we move stuff around on that mural? How do we really find out who we are?
And minimize the things that don't serve us.
Oh, very, very true. Sometimes we maximize things based on other people's opinions that we take on as our own. So we're really going to work on that too. How do we change that up? We're going to have some guests on here who have really strong relationships. We're going to talk about sometimes our relationship may start in an unconventional way or whatever that is. So we're going to have some different people on here. We're going to have, when we talk about health as well, we will have somebody on who does CBD products and what the CBD is all about for people and why it's working. She's going to kind of break it down for us. She does a much better job of doing that than I do. So just different people with different ideas, different things going on and their contribution to our health, whether they realize they're contributing or not, or, what that contribution looks like. We're going to talk about this is parent-child relationships. That's always a tough one. And if you're a parent listening to our podcast, understand it's not ever about throwing you under the bus, and children, it's not about throwing you under the bus either. It's about how do we have those relationships? How do we truly nurture each other and still, and understand this as a parent, I truly believe, and I taught parenting class for many years, I truly believe, and I would tell my parents, I believe that every parent is doing the best that they can with the information and knowledge that they have. But that does not mean that even with that information and knowledge, it does not mean that there's not always room for growth. So we will have somebody on who attended my parenting class, and she's going to talk about kind of what that parenting was like for her and how it's kind of changed and
the struggles that she had and how she grew from that class and how it changed her thinking.
Because we don't think about, we just do. That's kind of that mundane stuff. We get into a routine, sometimes a rut, and then we don't know where it goes from there. And that sometimes can be very difficult as well. And if we have those relationships that aren't working, but we want them to work, how do we make them work? What becomes our responsibility in the relationship? And along with relationships, one of the biggest things we look at is how do we set up boundaries? there are a lot of people who do not like boundaries. And so it's, how do we set up those boundaries? How do we make people feel like what I'm saying is not and people take it as an attack on them, but how do I do it in a way that I'm being respectful, but I'm at the same time really working on taking care of me and who I am as a human being? And I was once asked, is it selfish? Do you have to be selfish in order to be happy? I don't think it's called selfish. I think it's called setting up boundaries. I think other people may perceive it as selfish, but a boundary is not about being selfish. It's about self-preservation. It's about taking care of who I am. It's about sometimes not only just taking care of who I am, but setting up boundaries in order to take care of my family, to take care of the people that are important to me. We're going to talk also, because something that's really important is being able to find, what is it? Call it hobbies. What are those things that I do? What are those things that make me enjoy my time? And sometimes it can be unconventional. In our home, a lot of times it's music. Christy always has music in her ear, or I'm sure a song is going off on her head right now as we're speaking. I don't know. Is there?
No, not at the moment.
Oh, she's being attentive.
No, but music inspires, and, finding that thing that inspires you is really important.
Why is music important to you?
Well, music is great to get you through hard times, and it's great when you're feeling great to start with. So music is just, it's a way to remove yourself, I feel like, from maybe all the other noise that's happening in your head. And you just get focused to that, and you can just, kind of relax in that moment when you're really focused on it.
And I think that's what it is. And we're going to talk about music more and just how it really has the power to impact us, and how sometimes we have to take a moment to maybe listen to other people's music, because sometimes we can form an opinion thinking, oh my God, they're listening to this for this reason, but we don't ever ask. And sometimes it's important, we're going to talk about the importance of asking somebody, why is this relevant to you? What does it do for you? How does it help you? What does it do to inspire you, or whatever it is? And not just that. The other thing people love to do is read. We have a friend who we love her dearly, and oh my goodness, she can buy 5 books before she finishes one. And we often talk about, is it reading with the book, the real book, because you get the feel of it, and that's part of that mindfulness thing? Or do you like the tablets or the Kindles and all that, because they're so easy to take and you can read them wherever you're at? We're going to talk about travel. What does travel do for people? When we talk about travel too, it's not just going to be about, oh, I'm going on vacation, but it's also about travel and what is that experience? Because when we're able to step outside of our own little area, whatever that is, and go into somebody else's backyard, you get to learn about people. And in learning about other people, you get to learn a little bit more about you. And how do you incorporate those things into you, into your life, and make that something that's a positive? So that's going to be really important for us as well. And so, like I said, when we talk about life's journey, and people will talk about, oh my goodness, I'm getting older in age, so I'm getting closer to death, all of these things. And one of the things we have to be reminded of is that from the moment of death, from the moment of our birth, we are headed in the direction of death. We already started the journey. But why does that scare us? Why does that journey scare us sometimes? And why does it particularly scare us as we get older? So we're going to talk about when we get older, and we listen to all the different stuff that people say. For women, it's like, when you get past 30 and then you get into your 40s and 50s, all this stuff starts to happen. And we start to believe the rhetoric of others, not understanding that each one of us is an individual. And our individuality will determine a lot of those things. I was very inspired by a woman. I was reading an article one day, and she was an elderly woman. And I don't know, she's in her 70s now, but she started on the journey of being healthy at the age of 52. She looks amazing. Amazing, amazing. And I thought to myself at that time, she obviously didn't listen to those people who said, when you're 50, you can't do it, because as a woman, your body changes. And, they talk about all the hormone changes and all that. When you look at her, she just looks phenomenal. And there are more and more people as we're getting older. People are stopping. They're not listening to some of that rhetoric that says you can't do it, or your body can't do this, or you can't lose that belly fat, or you can't. People are proving people wrong by doing that, by getting out there and making their own path. And that's, we talked about, so all of this is going to come full circle. And as I tell my clients, there's a method to my madness, and it'll make sense when we get to the end of it. So I hope that you guys appreciate that and understand that there really is a method to the madness of what we're doing, and that at the end of all this, you guys can appreciate it. And that being on this journey with us is really important. And that's why, once again, why we're doing this, why it matters to us to be able to just have somebody to listen to. And like I said, on our Facebook, if there's a topic that maybe we're not covering or we don't think about, put it out there. And it might be something I say, we don't know anything about that. Maybe we can do some research or do stuff like that. But we really want to keep it more to things that we kind of experience, or like I said, in my journey as a therapist, the stuff that I've been able to learn and do, and, just the gratitude that I have for all the trainings that I've had over these years. And doing this for so long, I keep reminding people that I'm at the end of my career, not the beginning of my career. After doing this for 20 years, I'm really ready to, not anytime soon, not next week anyway, unless of course, we win the Powerball or something like that, then I may go to part-time.
But branching out beyond that. And mainly that's what it is with life's journey and everything in between, finding your own path and just doing that and being comfortable with yourself and coming to an overall place of wellness within yourself.
And I think that's really the thing, is at the end of this, helping people get to be more of a total package for themselves, so to speak. And sometimes understanding that bringing something into our conscious awareness can be scary, but knowing that bringing it into our conscious awareness also means that it's present. And if it's present, it's something that I can muddle through and figure out. And in doing so, we're going to change moments, because all we have is this moment. I don't have the next moment. The next moment's not here yet. So it's, what do we do in these moments? What do we do that's going to help us to get ready for that next moment?
To have that positive change.
Yes. To really embrace ourselves, as we call it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because we all have it. Nobody's immune to those things. And, when we talk about that thing of identifying things and then bringing it into our conscious awareness, in one of our episodes, we're going to really talk about communication. And is there a difference between the way men and women communicate? Yes, because we've been trained that way. It didn't start with my parents' generation or my grandparents or great-grand. It's been around forever. And I always tell my male clients, we do such an injustice to men because we don't help them. We don't teach them the value of communication and addressing feelings as they come up. We say certain things are good or acceptable in men as anger or whatever, and then we get mad at them when they're angry. That's not okay. So how do we change that? And for men, if you are men listening to this, how do you listen to this message, and how do you say, I don't want to be angry anymore. I want to be okay being who I am. I want to be okay having every emotion that I have, and that it's okay that I let that emotion come out. And those kind of things are really important, as also when we talk about everything that in this life's journey, what do we do? How do we make it better for ourselves? How do we expand? Christy and I start out our day with gratitude statements, and we end them with gratitude statements. But in that gratitude, how do I expand and embrace new information and knowledge? And how do I incorporate it in and make it a part of who we are? So I know it sounds like a lot because it is, because, from birth to death, there's a whole lot of stuff that goes on, a whole lot of stuff. And we will cover as much as we possibly can.
So do visit our Facebook page and feel free to leave some feedback. And as Sharon mentioned, if you have suggestions of things that you would love for us to cover, we would love to hear those things. And we will try to put the information on there of what topics we'll have coming up.
The other thing is that there may be some topics that you listen to that you don't really like. And what I will say is that if there's a question, we will respond to it. Now, I will tell you this, that I am not one to participate in a lot of negative stuff back and forth. If there's a podcast you don't like for personal belief or whatever it is, that's okay. I'm just going to ask people to please be courteous. If it's something you don't like, put it in a way that's not about being hurtful or harmful to others. It's not our practice. That's not how we engage in life. And this is about being okay to have your voice. And I encourage everybody to have their voice, but not at the expense of somebody else. That's never okay. It's about taking care of each other, because at some point, hopefully we all understand that connectivity that we have, and that we're going to talk about that too when we're on a social platform, how because there's this thing of being able to hide because we're not visible physically, that maybe that's what gives people the courage to speak the way they do sometimes and to be demeaning and to, and I get it. If it's something you feel strongly about, then there's a way of saying, I really don't agree with this. I strongly disagree with it, or whatever that is. But to insult and put down and shame and do those things, there's not a place for that. And so we're going to talk about that, how even with all of our social medias and platforms, how we've almost become desensitized in the way in which we engage with others, and how we minimize people, and how do we change that culture, and how do we not actively participate in it? How do we, or if we are going to participate in it, how do we do it in a constructive way in order to have a more positive piece to that? I think that's relevant and that's important. We're doing a podcast. This is a social platform, so to speak. And on any of these, there's positivity, there can be negativity. And once again, those are all everybody's personal perceptions. So I'm just going to ask that if you do, be constructive in the way in which you present information. Because if you don't, I'm not going to respond. Christy will not respond. And it's not that you weren't heard. It's just that it didn't warrant a response. Okay. And once again, it's not about being offensive to anybody, but we talked about boundaries. That's one of our boundaries. This is about putting information out, and this is about inviting people in, and this is about sharing information and knowledge. And by all means, if we're going to have a topic and there's something that you feel might be helpful to others that you've experienced with, or share that with us. We will gladly share that. Those things are important. And we want this to be a little interactive in that way. But just remembering that boundary is going to be really important for us. The Facebook will be up and available for everybody prior to this podcast airing. So that's a really big, important thing.
Just look for Two Girls in a Pod, life's journey and everything in between.
Yes. We want to thank everybody for joining us today. And once again, we look so forward to feedback. And if there's any topics that we're not thinking about, there's many more topics that we're going to cover. And, we're just so excited about it. And we're going to continue, I should say, to look at different people to have on our podcast and to talk. I have a couple of friends I'm going to actually hit up and see if they'll talk with us. That one's going to be on working in the schools and why that's, it's so relevant. where are our children at today with everything that's going on, and how do we help them navigate this? So we're going to talk with them about having them on. We're really looking at just having it really an eclectic group of people on here to talk about some different stuff, and to talk, we'll have people who talk about alternative therapies or things like that. That's going to be really important. And so, just keeping those things in mind. And like I said, any topics you guys can come up with, that's going to be awesome too. When we talk about real quick overall wellness and stuff like that, we're going to talk about the importance of slowing down the brain, meditation, mindfulness, those kind of things. That's also something that Christy and I practice. We try to do that daily. We meditate daily, but we usually do a morning and evening meditation. And this is something Christy's getting more into.
The evening meditation.
Or just meditation.
Meditation in general, and how much it just really helps you in so many aspects, just being able to deal with things easier. I feel like that you can slow down the mind to not overreact right away to something, and just take that moment to be able to deal with things better.
So that's kind of awesome because, we talk about the importance of slowing down the mind and everything. So once again, we are so excited about this, and we're so excited to invite everybody on this journey with us. And once again, we want everybody to feel comfortable and to know we're speaking to a lot of different people from a lot of different cultures, a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of different, whether it be the sexual orientation, belief system, it doesn't matter. We invite everybody to join us, and we look so forward to that participation. And just remember that connectedness that we have with others, and how do we help build that and nurture it and take care of each other. And that's where we're at with all this. We want that for everybody. We truly believe everybody deserves to be happy, healthy. Putting out those gratitude statements for that is so important for us. And, once again, just so excited about this journey that we're on together as partners once again in a new adventure, but also that journey with everybody else out there.